Okay, good evening, everyone. As we start 5 lines from the bottom of Daf Samach Aleph Amid Beis, and we are co-sponsored by the Zepkowitz family in honor of their parents. We're co-sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Eddie Chazan, Lefur Shalema for Shoshana Bas Panina and Simone Bas Rachel. We're co-sponsored by Binyamin Rivlin, Lili Nishmas Yitzhak ben Avram Yehuda Alevi. We're co-sponsored by Shelley Zeitlin in honor of his children, Eli, Orit, and Ora. We're sponsored by Be'er Gowaser, Lefur Shalema for Moshe Meir ben Esther Fadel, and Dov Meir ben Chaya Gittel. We're also sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Zev ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka bas Yaakov Yosef, Tivya Miriam bas Gad, Yosef ben Zion ben Yaakov Zev, that the neshama should have an aliyah. We welcome in Yaakov Warman, Dov Solkowitz, Saba, Dr. Black, Berish Gesserman, Menachem Umansky, Nachman Chapler, Moshe Lehman, Irving Fishbaum, Richard Rosenzweig, Abe Arbach, as we are just getting underway here on a very beautiful Monday evening, broadcasting from Orlando, Florida. So the Gemara says, again...
I'm here with you also, David Helke.
David, great to have you. Eddie Chazan is joining us, and Abaya had said that if you worship an Avodah Zarah, me'ava or me'yira, out of love or out of fear, meaning that you don't really believe in an idol, but you do it because you love someone, or you're afraid of someone, so Abaya says you're chayiv. So the Gemara tells us, V'amar Abaya mina aminola. How do I know this? The Tanya kayin Mashiach ba'avodas kochavim, a anointed kayin, that means a kayin gadol at the time where they still anointed with the Shemen HaMishcha, when he sins in idolatry, Rebbe says he's chayiv even b'shigigas ma'isa. He's chayiv even if he made a mistake, if he just did it unwittingly. While it's the opinion of the Chachamim hold he's like the Sanhedrin, that he's only chayiv behelim davar, when he makes an erroneous psak where he thought that this was permitted and it turns out not to be permitted. That's when he's chayiv his carbon. V'shavin, and they're in agreement, shebeseira kiyachid, that he brings a female goat like an individual. V'shavin, that if it's a suffix whether he did the sin or not, she'ein mevi ashim tali, that there's no ashim tali, which there usually is if you're not sure if you did a sin or not. Here there would be no ashim tali. So now we said it's a raya to Abaya that there's avodah zarah even me'ava me'ira. What's the raya? So now the Gemara gets down to it, and if you're just joining us, Rabbi Kranz and Ruvain Shanet, if you're just getting over to us, we are holding 3 lines from the bottom of Daf Samach Aleph Amid Beis. V'shavin, Hai shigigas ma'isa d'avodas kochavim meichadami. We said if the kayin mashuach is a regular shogeg, so there's a machloikis whether he brings the carbon or not. What does it mean to do avodas kochavim unwittingly? How is that possible? As the Gemara says, How is that possible? As the Gemara says, and we welcome in Marshall Castle and Avigdor Fried, Yitzi Fuchs, good to have him back. As the Gemara says over here, 3 lines from the bottom of Samach Aleph from the base, how do you have a situation where you're doing Avodah Zarah b'shogeg? If he thinks the church is a shul, and he bowed down, that's not shogeg. He had a mind to bow down to Aleinu. That's not a shogeg. It's hardest to heaven. He saw a statue and he bowed down to it. He saw a statue of Trump and he bowed down to it. If he accepts it as an idol, that's not a shogeg. That's amazing. Amazing. And if he didn't accept it as an idol, if he doesn't accept it as an idol, so then lav klumu, that's nothing. So what's the case of shogeg? It must be, suggests Abaya as a proof, elulav me'ava v'yira. It must be a situation where he bowed down out of love for someone or fear of someone, and he thought that was okay. Rava says no, because if you bow down out of love for someone or out of fear for someone, you're not chai. You know what a shogeg is? Rava Amalai, a shogeg is ba'ayim mutter, where he says that it's permitted. So the Gemara says, but that's the case of behelem davar. Helem davar is that the Kohen Gadol made a psak that it was mutter. So that's not shogeg, that's the case of helem. I'm a mutter, hainu helem davar. So the Gemara says, no, there's a difference. Ba'ayim mutter legamrei. Where he says it's mutter entirely, that's a shogeg. Where he says it's mutter entirely, that's a shogeg. Where he says, no, ba'ayim mutter legamrei, where he says it's completely mutter, that's a shogeg. Helem davar is where he's kia mixes or bittul mixes, where he paskins that some type of avodah zarah is aser and some type of avodah zarah is mutter. So then that's an erroneous psak. That's called helem davar. If you're just joining us, people are arriving every minute here now, as I see Abe Spry coming up, Yitzi Muller, and Shelley Zeitlin, Mo Kushner. What a wealthy group we have over here. Tani Rabbi Zakkai Kamei de Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Zakkai taught before Rabbi Yochanan, Zibach v'kiter v'nisach v'yishtachava. If you sacrificed, smoked up a carbon or incense, offered a libation, and bowed down behelem echad in one state of unawareness, einoi chayiv ela achas. You're only chayiv one carbon. Amalei, so he said to him, Paik tani lebra, go teach this outside. Why? Because excuse me. Amalei Paik tani lebra. Go teach this outside, because he said that this actually is dependent on the machlokes. Amar Rabbi Abba Hada Amar Rabbi Zakkai machlokes Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Nasan. It's dependent in the machlokes of Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Nasan. You know, we know that there's 39 malachas, and we learn it out in the Torah either because of a gematria, Eila Hadvarim. Eila is gematria 36. Devarim is 2. Hadvarim is an extra one, that's 39. Or because it says, as Mikdashi Tiro, Veshapsaisai Tishmairu. So we learn out that all the malachas that were done in the Mishkan, those malachas are prohibited on Shabbos. So we already know 39 malachas. Yet the Torah singles out Lo Yisabaru Eish B'chol Ma'ishveiseichem B'yom HaShabbos. So the shaila is, why was making a fire singled out? So there's a machlokes. The Tanya Havara L'Lav Yotza. Divrei Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says it says Lo Yisabaru to tell you that making a fire is only an Isser Lav and not an Isser Misa. Rabbi Nosson Aimer L'Chalek Yotza. It comes to tell you that if you do 39 malachas, you're chayiv for each and every malacha a separate carbon. So Laman Damar Havara L'Lav Yotza. So when by Avodah Zarah it singles out bowing down, Lo Yisishtachav Elahem, it comes to tell us that bowing down is only a lav. Hishtachav Onami L'Lav Yotza. Laman Damar Havara L'Chalek Yotza, the one that says Havara, comes to tell you that you're chayiv a separate chatas for each act, for building, for sowing, for planting. Hishtachav Onami L'Chalek Yotza. And Titaka would hold, according to that opinion, he would hold that if you're by Avodah Zarah, you're Zibach, Keter, Nisach, and Hishtachavah, you're chayiv a chatas for each one. So the Gemara says, well, no, maybe not. Maskva of Yosef, Dilma Adkan loikama Rabbi Yossi Haisam Havara L'Lav Yotza. The only reason why Rabbi Yossi says that Havara is downgraded, and it's not L'Chalik, because he knows L'Chalik from a different source. The Nafkalei Chilik Melachos Me Achas Meheina. From one of these. This is going to be a long brisa. It's a famous brisa in Masechta Shabbos. The Tanya, Rabbi Yossi Aimer, V'osa me achas meheina. You do from one, from these. Pa'amim shechayiv achas al kulan. There are times that you're chayiv only one chatas, even if you do many malachas, as we will shortly see, that you're chayiv a chatas for each mistake. So if you did many malachas, but you only made one mistake, you forgot it was Shabbos, so you only chayiv one chatas. Pa'amim shechayiv al kol achas v'achas. There are times that you chayiv for each and every one. That's where you knew it was Shabbos, but you forgot that planting was usher, and you forgot that writing was usher. So then you chayiv a chatas for each one. V'am Rabbi Yonis in my time in Rabbi Yossi. So now the Gemara explains. Dichsiv v'osa me'achas meheina. Achas and me'achas. This means that you're chayiv for writing Shimon, and you're also chayiv even if you write two letters. So if you write just Shin Mem, Shem from Shimon, you're already chayiv, because you're chayiv me'achas for part of it. Heina, these, and me'heina, from these. You're chayiv for avos, and you're chayiv for toldos. So for example, planting is an av, watering, which facilitates growth, is a tolda. As we welcome in Barry for our 27th Zoomer of the evening. Achashi heina, one that will make you chayiv many. V'heina shi achas, and many that will make you chayiv one. And welcome in Barry as we are in the fifth wide line on Daf Samach Beis Amud Aleph. So and now we're going to explain this brisa. Achas is Shimon. If he says the full word, if he writes the full word Shimon. Me'achas is Shem Mishimon. Even if he just writes the Shem Mem, he's already chayiv, because you're chayiv even if you write two letters. Heina is avos, the principles like planting. Me'heina is toldos, derivatives like watering. Achashi heina. one that is many, that's Zedain Shabbos V'Shigigis Malachas. That's where you knew was Shabbos, but he forgot that planting was Aser, he forgot that sowing was Aser, he forgot that cooking was Aser, so you're chayav for each mistake. Heina Shi'achas, many, that's one, that's where he planted, he cooked, and he built, and he wrote, but it was all because he forgot it was Shabbos. So there, it's Heina, he did a lot of things, Shi'achas, but he's only chayav one chatas, because he made one mistake. That Shigig Shabbos was Daim Malachas, where he forgot it was Shabbos, and he did the Malachas purposefully. Aval Hacha, but over here by Avodah Zarah, where you don't have a source to tell me, Lechalek, the Loi Nafkalei Chilik Malachas Meduch Tachrite, you don't learn it out from anywhere else. So then over here it must be that we are going to say we learned it out from Lois Ishtachaveh. Here we don't have any other source. The Kuli Alma Ishtachaveh L'Chalek Yotza. And you're chayiv each one, unlike we said before, you're chayiv chatas for Zibach, you're chayiv chatas for Aktori, you're chayiv chatas for Nisach, etc. Says the Gemara, well, I don't understand. Why don't you learn out from the series of Me'achas Me'heina that it applies also to idolatry? Chiluk Malachas D'Avodas Kechavim Nami Tefik Le Me'achas Me'heina. We should learn it out also from Me'achas Me'heina, and we could see that we could learn all four drushes of Me'achas Me'heina applying to idolatry. Achas is Zvicha. Achas is if you sacrifice both simonim, you shech the esophagus and the food pipe and the trachea. Me'achas is siman echad. It's only where you shech one of the simonim, let's say just the food pipe, it's also idolatry. Heina is avais, is the principles. Zibuah, Kitur, Nisach, Mishtachavah, the sacrificing, smoking up, libations, bowing down. Me'heina is told us, if you have a Avodah Zarah that you worship with a staff, and you break the staff would be tantamount to Zvicha. Shavar Maka Lefaneh is like slaughtering an animal, it's like slaughtering the rod, which used to, that would be a derivative. Achashi Heina would be Zdain Avodas Chav Meshigas Avodas, where you knew that Avodah Zarah was Aser, but you forgot that sacrificing was Aser, you forgot that smoking up was Aser, etc. So therefore you're chayav for each and every one. Heina Shi'achas, one that's many, is Shigas Avodas Kechavim Zdain Avodas, where you forgot idolatry is forbidden, but you knew that Ziva Keter and etc. is a means of worship. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. What do you mean you forgot that idolatry was Aser? So if you think it was a shul, and bow down to it, that's serving Hashem. You saw a statue. If you accept it as an idol, that's not a shogeg, that's willful. If you didn't accept it, you're just doing it as reverence, it's nothing. It must be that you did it because you loved somebody and you feared somebody and you thought that was okay. So that you're chayiv if you do that. But according to Rav, that's pater ma'ikalameima. Ella ba'omer mutter. Not only did you forget that sacrificing and slaughtering and are okay, you thought the whole idolatry thing is okay. So the Gemara says, you're telling me that you're only chayiv one in that case? This should resolve what Rav inquired of Rav Nachman. If you're not sure about both, if you were unaware of both, you are unaware of idolatry, you're also unaware, or in the case of Shabbos, you're unaware of Shabbos, you're also unaware that cooking is asur and boiling is asur, and sewing is asur, and so you're unaware that it was Shabbos, and you're unaware that they're asur. Mao, are you chayav for each and every mistake on the malachas, or because you forgot it was Shabbos, you're only chayav one? So tifshay de'ena chayav ala achas. But since Rava inquired this of Rav Nachman, obviously he didn't resolve this. Says the Gemara, halakash, that's no problem, but tifshay, resolve it. Says the Gemara, but umi matzis mukmis lahani kroi ba'avodis kechavim. Could you say that these psukim of me'achas me'heina is talking about idolatry? The ilu hacha ksiv b'mashiach. Over here it says by the Parkai Mashiach, by the Kai Mashiach he brings a bull. Or b'nasi, and the nasi brings a sar, a he-goat. Or b'yachin, an individual brings a kizba u'se'ira, a female sheep or a female goat. The ilu b'avodis kechavim, by idolatry, tanan, v'shavin sheb'se'ira kiyachin, that they all hold that it's even the Kohen Gadol brings a se'ira like a yachid. So obviously the pasuk of me'achas me'heina cannot be talking about idolatry, v'sulay midei, and there's nothing more to talk about this subject. Wow, I'm really appreciative that although we're starting late, we still have 30 Zoomers. That's really wonderful. And I appreciate it. We did, my wife and I davened in Chabad Mincha Ma'av tonight. We finished, and we got to the restaurant 7:30. So there was no way that if I gave shir at 8, we would have been able to eat. So,
hey, do what we do. Eat during shir.
You figured it out. We don't want to do what you do. Now, Marshall, Ramesh, you're a genius. The bottom line, Samach Beis Amud Aleph, and by the way, these Gemaras have been harder than last 2 days. You should, if you feel that the Gemara is going a little bit harder, it's been a little harder the last few days. You know, Hashem said, Rabbi Weiss, you want to go on a vacation, I got to give you hard Gemaras, so that, you know, to make sure that you don't slack off in your learning. Ki also Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda Amar, when Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda arrived, Amar Hachi, he said the following. And it's interesting to see, you know it was a hard Amid when there's 5 pages of translation for the Amid. So you know that was a hard Amid. So anyway, when Rabbi Shmuel bar Yehuda arrived, Amar Hachi Tana Kamei, this is the Brisa that Rav Zakkai taught before Rabbi Yochanan. Chaymer b'Shabbos mishar mitzvahs. There's a chumrah of Shabbos over other mitzvahs, and chaymer b'shar mitzvahs b'Shabbos. And other mitzvahs have a chumrah over Shabbos. Chaymer b'Shabbos, there's a chumrah of Shabbos shar Shabbos. Oiseh shtayim be'elam echad. If you do 2 averos in one state of unawareness, chayav al kol achas v'achas. Ma'ashein came b'shar mitzvahs, which is not true by other mitzvahs. And chaymer b'shar mitzvahs, and there's a chumrah of other mitzvahs, sheb'shar mitzvahs, shagag b'loy mischavein, if you erred without thought of doing an aveira, chayiv. Ma'ashein came b'Shabbos. So now the Gemara is going to explain what are these cases. Amar, chaymer b'Shabbos, is the chumrah of Shabbos, Shabbos also shtayim, if you do 2 aveiros, you're chayav for both aveiros. Ma'ashein came b'shar mitzvahs. Now hechidami, ilay meda'avid k'tziro tchina, you did 2 malachas, you harvested and you grinded. The kavasa gabe shar mitzvahs, the achol chelav v'dam, you ate chelav and you drank blood. In both cases, you're chayav for both. Hachatarte Mechayiv. By Shabbos you chayiv for the harvesting and the grinding. V'hachatarte Mechayiv. And by Chaylev and Dam you chayiv for each one there too. That's where you repeated the same sin twice. You ate fat, and again, exercise of fat, in one state of unawareness, there you only chayiv once. Well, the kavos and Gabi Shabbos, the same thing is true by Shabbos. The avik ksira, if you harvested and then again harvested the same av, in one state of an awareness, in each case, by the chaylev you only chayiv one, and by Shabbos you only chayiv one. So what's the chumrah of Shabbos over other mitzvahs? The Hainu de Amalei, and that's why he told him, Poik Tani Lebra, go and teach it outside, because it doesn't work. So the Gemara asks, excuse me, my kusha. It's talking about by Shabbos where he harvested and he grinded. There you're chayiv too. It's talking about idolatry, like the opinion of Rabami. If you slaughtered, smoked up, and offered libation in one state of unawareness, so when it says Shar Mitzvahs, it means Avodah Zarah. So while by Shabbos, if you did Ksira and Tchina in one state of unawareness, you chayiv twice. But by Avodah Zarah, if you did Zibach V'Kiter in one state of unawareness, you only chayiv once. Says the Gemara, but you can't learn this. Brisa is talking about Avodah Zarah. You can't say it's talking about Avodah Kechavim. Why? Because it doesn't work with the Sefer, with the second part. The Ketani Sefer, it says in the Sefer, Chaymer b'shar mitzvahs, there's a chumrah of other mitzvahs, sheb'shar mitzvahs, in other mitzvahs, shagag b'loy mischavein, if you erred without kavana, chayiv. So where do you have an error without kavana that you're chayiv by avodah zarah? Shagag b'loy mischavein b'avodas kechavim heichidami. If it means that you thought it was a shul, you bow down to the church because you thought it was a shul, either kesavar beis haknesses v'shtachav aloi, no harili b'lishamayim. You had a mind to bow down to Hashem and Aleinu in Moedim. That's not an aveira. Ella d'chazan drata v'sagale. You saw a statue and you bowed down. Ikablis alei bala. If you accepted it as a god, mezidu. That's not a shogeg. That's willful. That's avodah zarah. If you didn't accept it as a god, you only did it out of reverence, like klumi, it's nothing. What happened is you made an error because you served out of love of someone or out of fear of someone. Says, well, that's good according to Abaya. It's talking about that he said that the avodah zarah is mutter. Ma'ashe'en came b'Shabbos the potter legamrei. You want to say, but by Shabbos it's potter. Aimer mutter is a case of helam zeh v'zeh. You forgot it was Shabbos, and you forgot it was the malachas were asa. So the Gemara says. Ad kan loy boy minay Rav Nachman helam zeh mezeh, where you are unaware of both. Ela ilichiyu veichada, whether you chayiv only one for the mistake of not knowing it's Shabbos. Ilichiyu veitarta, you're chayiv for both malachas. But potter legamrei, but potter entirely lekalam anamer. So the Gemara says, you know what? I'll say that the first part of the brayso is talking about avodah zarah. And the second part of the brayso is talking about other mitzvahs. By kushan. And what does it mean You see, by other mitzvahs, if you made an error without kavanah, you're chayiv, that if you thought it was spit, and you swallowed it and it turned out to be chaylev, so you didn't have in mind that you were eating at all, you're still chayiv because you benefited from the chaylev. V'shagar malay mischaven the kesava roiku, you thought that the chaylev was spittle, or boilay, but you're chayiv because you enjoyed it. Ma'ashe'en came b'Shabbos to potter, that means that if there was grass on the ground, and you meant to pick it up, so you didn't mean to cut it at all, and you ended up cutting it, then you're not chayiv, because shenischaven like via esatolish, you had in mind to pick up some grass that you thought, some wheat that you thought was detached, and you ended up cutting it off from the ground. There it's potter, because by Shabbos there's a din of maleches machsheves. You have to intend to do a malacha. If you were totally unaware that you were eating chaylev, you thought you were swallowing spit, you were unaware that you were having beer, you thought you were lying down, chayiv, why? Shekei nene, because at the end of the day, you had benefit, what we call kamishtar shalah, and therefore you're chayiv a carbon. But I'm a asek b'Shabbos potter, because by Shabbos, you're only chayiv if you intended to do malacha. Maleches machsheves asratayr. And here, where you thought you were picking up the wheat, you didn't think you were doing a malacha at all, you're not going to be chayiv. So the Gemara says, well, the reason why Rabbi Yochanan said, poik tana brei, go teach it outside, and he didn't explain that the Reisha was talking about the Avodah Zarah, and the Sefer was talking about Shar Mitzvahs, Rabbi Yochanan goes according to his reasoning. It's not his practice to shish kebab a Mishnah and say that the Reisha is B'chad Taima, the Reisha is talking about one situation, the Sefer B'chad Taima, and the Sefer is talking about another situation, because the Amar Rabbi Yochanan, man de metargim li chavius, the one who could interpret me the Mishnah of the barrel in Mesechtas Bava Kama, aliba dechat Tana, that both the Reish and the Sefer could work according to the same Tana, because I don't like to split it up. I would bring his clothing for him to the bathhouse. He doesn't like to learn that the Reish is talking about one case and the Sefer is talking about another case. Okay, Rabbi Say, I told you I would work on not getting you too long. That wasn't bad. 33 minutes. We're going to learn the Mishnah Yaimis now. I will say that I am in Orlando, but I still need sponsors in New York. We do not yet have a sponsor for the Chumash Shir, which I will do even though I'm on vacation. If anybody wants to sponsor the Chumash Shir, let me know, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com.